Hi everyone, can you hear me okay? It hasn't officially started, I'm just checking in. If everyone can make sure that you're, I don't know if you should be able to hear me. Can you just let me know if you can hear me okay? And if everyone can just make sure they are muted, you should be muted. Just popping, okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know that you can hear me. I just want to make sure that's all good. Yeah, we'll just make sure that you, can you see me? I'm not sure that I'm coming up. Pin video, there we go. Okie doke. Okay, I might start. Thanks so much for joining me. How exciting. I've got some people live with me, which is great because that's what I was hoping for. We could have a proper coffee date and chat about all things doula and sacred business. So I've got a couple of you on, which is really exciting, and quite a few people who said they're going to watch the replay. So if at any time you can't hear me, just pop a message down in the box and I will get started. Okay, so you're probably here because hello, I'm just saying hello to those people popping in now. I think Helena, Helena? You're coming in from the UK, aren't you? I wonder what time it is there. How exciting. Okay, so I will get started because I have a lot to say and I have a lot of things that I've been wanting to talk about on this topic, and it's just been bubbling up inside of me, which is why I wanted to run this masterclass and share it with you all. Where to start? So you're probably here because you're a doula or a birth worker of some kind, and perhaps you're feeling a little bit blocked or a little bit lost, or you have some questions. It's really a really tricky time when you're standing on that threshold in that sort of liminal space between training and building your business. And maybe you've been in business for a little while, and this masterclass will still be definitely helpful for you as well, because I think a lot of these blocks many doulas and many birth workers face. I am sort of going to be talking specifically about people who are kind of starting out in those first 12 months, but everything that I talk about will still be relating to you if you've been in business for a long time or a while. And I'd really love you to kind of put your hand up. I'll ask you if you've been feeling some of these things or if you've experienced some of these things, because from my experience, all of the things I'm going to talk about have been very commonly discussed by new doulas and seasoned doulas, and often leads to the dropout rates, which is what we don't want to see. And I'm really, really passionate about not seeing those dropout rates, because the world needs our work, really. Like, that's what I'm passionate about. That's why I'm here. That's why you're here, I'm sure, because you have felt a calling to do this work, and you really, really want to share it with the world. And it's just a matter of how you merge the practicals of building your business with this divine calling that you have. So in this masterclass, we are going to talk about the most common challenges. So if you've downloaded my free resource, the Birthwork Business Blueprint, you'll see I've listed the most common challenges in there. If you haven't downloaded it, I really encourage you to do that. It is a free resource, and there's a lot of value in it. It's over 35 pages, and there's actually 2 PDFs that you get sent. And it just goes through essentially my process, and it's something that I have been through myself, so I can sort of say from experience that it has definitely worked for me, and it comes from a place of having worked with birth workers for a really, really long time. So, and then we're going to go through the most common myths and limiting beliefs that really do sabotage successful doula work and birth work, specifically and particularly sort of the new doulas, but it's definitely ingrained in many seasoned doulas as well, and it's ingrained in our culture, and they're ingrained in sort of everything that we do, particularly around sort of traditionally women's work. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on, and then I'm going to give you some strategies around trying to actually unblock those, because it's my process around unblocking them are probably, hopefully, maybe a little bit different to what you have been given before or what you've been used to, because I've had to find a different approach for myself. And so I'm going to offer that to you as well. So I'm Catherine. If you don't really know me all that well, hopefully you found me through some kind of social media or somewhere, but I'm Catherine, and I have been a doula and a birth worker for more than 10 years. I started out doing mental health stuff. I've got many hats and many, many labels and many different pieces of paper, and they all kind of meld into one. And so I've studied psychology and social work, and I did a bit of midwifery. I'm based in Australia. Hi, Danny, you're at work. And what I noticed, I suppose, in the birth work, I ended up sort of doing more placenta encapsulation work. And as I became a mum, my business had to start working more for me. And it was about trying to juggle making my work for me rather than me having to work for it, if that makes sense, and trying to make my business work for my family and the way that I see it working for us, not having to juggle another job and all those kinds of things. So I've been through lots and lots of different pathways, and it's taken me a long time to get super, super clear, crystal clear. And I have spent a fair bit of time and bit of work also helping Angela Gallo, who is now Angel Phoenix Arsenal, develop her doula training as well. So I've been involved in actually training doulas and mentoring doulas and coaching doulas, and so I've seen this real pattern that's come about. And so I also built up quite a big community in my local area, and I've been doing this kind of work a lot for free for a long time. And there really is some very, very common patterns and challenges when it comes to this doula work. And so what I've done is sort of incorporated all of these years of work and experience and knowledge, and sort of put it together in this, in my blueprint, and then in my Thrive mentorship, and partly in this masterclass as well, because what I want to see is doulas, particularly new doulas, not have to go through that. Like, we want to fast track that. We want to miss all of that stuff, and we want to not have to go through it. So that's my background. That's where I come from. I really come from a place of wanting to hold space for the space holders, because I truly believe that you can't hold space for somebody else if nobody is holding space for you. And that is definitely one of the big challenges that we're going to talk about in terms of doula work and birth work, around what that looks like and what that means. So some of the most common challenges that I have seen and witnessed and experienced for myself, and supported other doulas and birth workers through are, and I wrote them down so that I don't forget. So if I'm looking up, it's because I want to make sure that I don't forget. And I'm also going to give you an opportunity to ask questions at the end. And I also wanted to mention as well that if you hang out with me today, there is actually, I will have some special offers as well. Oh, hi Maggie, currently studying with Angela. Yeah, so you've probably seen my face around, maybe, or you will at some point in the content. So the top challenges that I see so commonly are lacking confidence. And at the end of these, I'd love it if you could like put, do a little emoji or something if you've experienced these, or tell me how many you've experienced, because I feel like most doulas experience at least most of them, if not all of them. So really lacking that confidence in moving forward, and kind of not knowing what steps to take between you've done your training, you've got all this amazing information and knowledge. And I think that your doula training honestly is so important and so valuable. We aren't a regulated profession, so it's not, it's not compulsory to do doula training, but it is really important to have that information and to have that background and to be given all the resources that you need and to have the support. But there is this kind of gap when you finish your training, you've got all of the information. What do I do with it? And so I do believe that sometimes training can only take you so far. And then you kind of throw it into the deep end and you attend births and you experience things that you might have heard about or you might not have heard about, and you don't know how to process it. You don't know how to work through it. You don't know who to turn to, and there's just this like lacking of, what do I do next? How do I set up my business? What is it? How do I find clients? And so there's just this feeling of like, I'm not sure where to go with it. I don't know what next steps to take. I wish someone would tell me exactly what steps are that I need to take next. And that real lacking of confidence in oneself, because when you are starting your own business, the responsibility and accountability are on you. And so there has to be that level of confidence to be able to show up and to go to interviews and to put your face out there and, actually start your business. And so that also comes to like what kind of business you want to run, and do you actually want to run a business or do you want to have a hobby? So that's one of the biggest challenges. I'm just looking. Okay, so also not clear on which how to find clients, how to book clients, or I hear a lot of doulas going to lots and lots of interviews and doing lots of free work and lots of volunteer work trying to drum up clients, and they just aren't signing them, they're not booking them. And so the consistency of their business is really lacking, and it can be really deflating and so disheartening when you've been, I think I had a doula recently and she'd attended something like 14 interviews or something, and no bookings, maybe one booking, and just feeling really disheartened, like maybe I'm not good enough and there's something about me and why aren't they booking with me and what am I doing wrong, and spending 2 hours with them, and not actually having a booking. So that can be really disheartening as well. Burnout, probably more for seasoned doulas, not so much new doulas because you haven't experienced it yet. But, even as new doulas, if you've attended a really complicated, tricky birth, or you have some clients that become quite complicated, and just not knowing how much value to add and where your boundaries lie. And then also the fear of burnout, or the fear of, how can I do this sacred, amazing work that I've been called to do without contributing to this toxic, broken system that we all know exists? I mean, if you've attended even one birth, or you've spoken to other birth professionals, or you follow them on Instagram, you'll see that there's a lot of stuff going on that is horrendous. And as birth professionals, it can be really scary, especially if you're coming out of your training. And this is where there's that temptation to sort of shadow another doula, or give your work for free, or keep yourself small because you're not sure how to navigate those really complex systems, particularly if you don't have support networks in place. A big one that I feel really, really passionate about, particularly in my local area, is just feeling unsupported and feeling isolated. So maybe less today because we have Instagram, and apparently doulas are said to be one of the biggest influencers, like upcoming influencers, which I thought was really cool. So obviously we're all sort of following birthing accounts because, life begins with birth. So we all have some kind of investment when it comes to birth related work. But as I said, you can't hold space for somebody else, which is essentially what we do as doulas and birth workers, if someone isn't holding space for you. And if you don't know who to turn to debrief, or to navigate complex situations, or where to get your support, or to have that community, whether online or face-to-face, it just can feel so deflating and so just isolating and lonely. And it's pretty easy to just want to drop out when you don't feel connected and when you don't know who to talk to when you're feeling really low. We have to feel heard. We have to feel seen if we want to make it work. And then, of course, not enough money, not making enough money, not knowing how to charge, not know, you know, like all the stuff around money is such a big topic. And I love to talk about money. I can talk about this topic all day. And the reason I can talk about it all day is because I've been there. I was the person, I was this, you know, hippie spiritual person who was all about, you know, we need to not have money and live off the grid, which I, you know, would still love to do. But in a lot of years of trying to build up my business, what I've realized so much is that money allows you to be able to do so much more. And it doesn't have to be a lot of money. It has to be whatever suits you and whatever works for you. There's no set number. But not making enough money in your business means that it becomes a hobby business, which means you're probably not going to be able to do it for all that long. And then we lose another amazing birth worker. So that's another challenge. And then just like being blocked by business. How do I start a business? How do I use social media? How do I have a website? How do I have a mailing list? Why do I have a mailing list? Why would I do all of these things? And it's so overwhelming. You know, what kind of insurance do I need? And what kind of hashtags do I use? And just all of this overwhelming stuff. And we get so much information about what we should be doing that we just get blocked. And we actually forget to look inside and ask what it is we actually really want and how we want to make it work. It's not about somebody else. So they're the main challenges that I have noticed, particularly new doulas, but also seasoned doulas as well. So I love if you want to interact a little bit, send me an emoji or like tell me how many of those that you've experienced yourself, or like which one is the strongest for you at the moment. And then I want to go into the myths and the limiting beliefs, because I think they are such a big one. So I'll just keep talking and I'll just wait and see if anything comes through. So I could have made this so many myths, but I didn't want to like sit here all day and bore you with all of the myths. So I picked the top 3 that I think are the most common that really sabotage business. I don't think that they start, well, I know that these myths and these limiting beliefs that doulas and birth workers and sacred business owners, it doesn't start, you don't start thinking them when you just finish your training. These have been imprinted in you since you were a kid, probably since before that. Someone just said information overload and blockage of what I want to do is huge for me. Yes, information overload massively, and that's where the blocks around business. Yes, bringing enough clients. Yes, massively. Doing this for a while and just trying to bring in enough clients. Okay, exactly. So they're exactly some of the challenges that I was talking about, and that real lack of creativity, because you're so bombarded with consumption of other people's stuff and other people's information, and then we forget to actually work out what it is we want. So the top 3 myths are: I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I don't know enough. I'm just not enough. It's just a general, I'm not enough. And that can stem from a whole bunch of stuff, but that wouldn't have started when you finished your doula training or as you were doing your doula training, but it carries on into your business and affects you. So I'm going to read them out and then I'm going to talk about them individually. The second one is, this one's a little bit twofold because I think it's a bit of a spectrum. I think it goes both ways. So I'm not good at business. I'm not good at business at all. And business is too patriarchal. My work is too sacred. I don't want to kind of contribute to this sort of patriarchal model, right? And then the third one, of course, is about money, that money taints the sacredness of this work. So give me like a hands up if you kind of believe any of those things or quietly think some of those things, because this is really, and what I'm delving into is really that sort of shadow work that I believe is so, so important when it comes to building a business. So the first one, I'm going to start with, I'm not good at business. I'm not good at business. I can't do business. It's too patriarchal. It's too sort of masculine. It's too structured. I'm not interested in business stuff. I don't want to do the business stuff. There's something about it that blocks me. It takes me away from my flow of doing the work. But what I want to say about that, and this is really important because it's really a common thing. When it comes to sacred work, we have to have both halves to make the whole. So we look at it from a holistic way. You have to look at it as like, and I don't mean it from a gendered perspective, I just mean from like an energetic perspective, the feminine and the masculine. So you've been called to this work. I don't know any birth workers that haven't been called in some way, who can't recall having like this awakening in some way, or maybe it came to you when you were a kid and maybe you forgot about it and then it called you back, or maybe it happened when you had your kids, but it's a calling. It's like we become a vessel, like we become like this vessel for the divine, right? And what we do is we like download all of this amazing, juicy, sacred work that we want to pour out into the world, and what we do is we block it. Like, well, business is not for me. And so what we're doing is we're downloading all of this stuff, and then we just have like a fence because we don't want to do the business because we've got this massive block that business is too patriarchal, or I'm not good at it, or I don't want to buy into that way of life. And I get it, you know, I felt like that as well. I didn't want to have a bar of it. I didn't want to, there's lots of people that don't want to engage on social media, which I totally understand. But what I want to make really, really clear is that when you're running a sacred business, and this is how I define a sacred business, is that is your calling. It's your soul work. I feel sometimes like I'm like this dog on a lead, and, you know, like the universe is like holding this lead. And every time I try and like veer off, it's like yanks me back. And so that's how you know it's a calling, because you try and divert. You're like, I'm going to get another job. I'm going to do something else. And then you get yanked back. Okay, I'm listening, like I'm here, I'm doing this work. So when you're getting yanked off, you're like, okay, so what do I do now? I know what I want to do. It's about understanding that your business, there are lots and lots and lots of patriarchal masculine businesses where their purpose is to make money and to make a profit, and they're all about structure, and, you know, it's not about flow at all. But that is not what I would classify as sacred business, and that's the complete opposite. So that is a separate entity from whoever is running it. That's what like a corporation would be. When I'm talking about this kind of business, it is a sacred physical manifestation of you. So it is you. Without you, there's no business. And without you, you're the vessel for this amazing sacred work. And all of the business is the container to help you be able to actually share it with the world. And it kind of creates like that cycle. So the way I see it is like what you're getting, your calling, is kind of the feminine aspect where it's like the flow. And then the business part is just a physical manifestation, extension of you that is allowing you to share it with the world. It's allowing you to continue doing this work. It's allowing you, it's basically shining the light on the path where you need to go next and how you need to do that. And it's feeding you. It's like that cycle where it's feeding you back to be able to keep doing the work. And it's sort of like, I talk about like a glass of liquid. And so your liquid is the feminine flow. It's all flowy and lovely. And the masculine container is like the cup. And so if you don't have the cup, you just kind of flow out and dilute, and it just kind of doesn't work. And if you don't have the flow in the cup, then it's empty, right? So you need two in order to make it the whole and actually allow it to be shared with the world, which is essentially your intention, your purpose. It is really important that you do make that decision that you are moving into a business and that you don't want a hobby, because there is a difference. And when you move into that, deciding that you are changing your mindset around business, that business is a sacred half of the work that you do and such an important half, you'll start to realize that it's all about you. It all comes from you. It doesn't come from anywhere else. And that's the key to this work when it comes to you believing that you're no good at business, because you're only as good at business as you are at your calling. And it is you. There is nothing else to it. It is you, but you have to look inside what it is that you actually want, what your intention is. It's not about the external. So when I was talking about that consumption versus creativity, if you're feeling bombarded and you're feeling like you're getting so much information about what you should be doing and what you can't be doing because you're not good enough, get rid of all the noise, because you're being called. You are being called. You as an individual are being called, and everyone's being called in a different way, because we're all being called to do our small little bits so that we can all build on it together to create bigger change. And that really is the point. So you have to really center with what your calling is and how you make that work for you. You're the boss. You get to decide. You get to decide if you want to work 5 days a week. You get to decide if you want to work 10 hours a week. You get to decide if you want to be on social media. You get to decide if you want to focus on face-to-face. You get to decide. No one else gets to decide. And there's no one right way. This is my big message. There is no one right way. The only way is your way, and you will download that yourself because you've been called to this work. And that's the difference. When it comes to like business, you know, and you know what kind of business I'm talking about, separate from sacred business. Yeah, sure. I'm sure there's really strategic, external ways of doing things, and people can tell you what to do. But when it comes to this work, because it's so personal and it comes from such a deep, deep place, it's really important that it comes from you and that you make the rules, and that there is no separation between your business and you and what you desire and what you want your business to look like. There is no one right way. If you want to build an empire, you can do that. But if you don't have to. You get to choose how many clients you take on, and you know what your self-care looks like. And it's just a matter of having that container that protects you, because that's essentially what it does. It allows you to have boundaries. It allows you to have processes in place to really make sure that you're protected and that your clients are protected, so that you get to what's her name, Danielle Laporte says something like big open heart, tall fucking fence. And that's kind of how I look at sorry for the swear words. That's kind of how I look at this work, and that's how I look at the sacred container. So if you're thinking you're no good at business, you are good at business, because a business is you. You are the business. So you are. And that brings me to you're not being enough. So I'd like to question where that sort of stems from, because often the idea of I'm not enough, I'm not giving enough, I'm not valuable enough, what that ends up leading to is workers over giving and then burning themselves out. And so what they end up doing is kind of creating this sort of vicious cycle or self-perpetuating cycle of I'm not enough, so I give more and more and more and more, and then they burn out, and then they're like, oh, I'm really not enough. And I'm not enough, or I don't know enough. Like, there's a lot of birth workers that constantly think, I don't know enough, so I need to keep learning. And so they want to get more and more and more certificates or more training or more reading before they feel ready to put themselves out there. And that is just a block to keep yourself small, because you're scared. And often it comes down to this fear of being seen and fear of being judged, or fear of people not thinking that you're enough. But it's about working through that fear and knowing that it's actually stuff that you have been processing your entire life. And often it's about the value of traditionally women's work in this culture, which hasn't been valued, and possibly goes back to your parents and how they felt about this work, and possibly comes down to your partner, who maybe doesn't believe that you can make it work, or that it isn't a real job, and just changing that mindset around finding that place of acceptance that what you have to offer, if you've completed your training, you're more than enough, and really understanding that embodying the art of holding space is not about knowing anything. Actually, it's about being rather than doing. And we're so caught up in this need to do and give that we forget about the actual essence of what this work is about, and this is why I'm so passionate about talking about sacred business, because it's not something that we can measure. It's not something that we can necessarily put into words. It's often this real feeling. So if you're having that constant need to get more information, more certificates, more training and more stuff, and it's blocking you from actually going out and doing the work, I'd really encourage you to have a think about where that comes from. And ask yourself if you do really believe that you are deserving, and if you are actually worthy, if you really believe in your heart that you're worthy of building the business of your dreams, whatever that looks like. Because often it comes down to something that was probably imprinted as a child, probably culturally, and they imprint into our subconscious. And then what happens is our subconscious acts up when we're doing something new and different, and basically sabotages us because we feel frightened. But it doesn't come from something that's happening now. It comes from something that, you know, you've probably forgotten about. So it's really important to have a think about where that comes from. And, you know, do you really truly believe that you are worthy? Do you believe that you're deserving of having a business that thrives in whatever way that looks like for you, that meets your desires? And that's actually easy, because it doesn't have to be hard. You know, we all have this belief that making money and building a business has to be sacrificial, and, you know, we have to be these martyrs. And then what kind of message are we actually giving our clients as well? We might talk about self-care a lot, but if you're not giving it to yourself, how can you model that? So it's important to remember you can't give what you don't have. And so, and this is why I talk about holding space for people that hold space, because it's all about that connection and that feeling of belonging. And often, if you're not feeling enough, sometimes it's about being seen and heard, in order to find that place of acceptance that actually, hey, I don't need anything, and that my ability to hold space for my clients in the way that I do best doesn't require anything else. It's about being rather than doing. So I've talked about this in my Instagram post as well. There's no one right way to be. There's no one kind of doula. No one can tell you what kind of doula you should be. There's no, like, if you, whatever kind of person you are, there's clients for you, because there's people that want to attract to what you have. So if you don't normally dress in a certain way, don't dress that way because you think you're going to impress your clients, because you're going to attract clients that aren't going to mesh with your values and what you want from your own business. And it has to be a relationship between you and your clients, and it has to be a mutual relationship. So you have to be equally as happy as they are with you. So there's no one right way. You are enough exactly as you are. You don't have to change. And in fact, if you change for your business in a way that feels wrong or feels icky or feels uncomfortable in a way that doesn't feel good, it's actually going to sabotage your business more. And you're often going to overgive and over-deliver to the point where sometimes clients find it uncomfortable when it's really unnecessary. And then you're going to look at burnout, you know, and all the other things that come with it. And then we lose another birth worker. So we really, really need more healers. I think the Dalai Lama says that we need more healers and teachers and storytellers and people doing this work, so that we can all do our part to help rebuild and reclaim birth and sacred work from this toxic, broken system that we all know exists and seems to be sort of getting worse. But we need to support each other so that we can keep doing this amazing work. Okay, so the final one, the final myth and limiting belief is money. And So it's that idea that money taints the sacredness of this work. And also that belief that, well, I can't make money from this work. And they kind of cancel each other out, because if you don't believe that you can, like if you're believing that you can't make money from this work, or whatever money you need to make or you would like to make, because it can vary for everybody, it sort of cancels out then, oh, but I need to charge, but I can't charge because then I'm not, like, then I'm kind of ruining this work. And I definitely think that in part stems from our culture around, you know, valuing traditionally women's work, and birth work, and, you know, not being paid. But traditionally there probably still would have been some kind of bartering that happened. You know, there was a different form of payment. It just so happens that in our culture we use the current, you know, the consumerist currency of money. But it's about really understanding the energetics of money, and that money, and I've had to do a lot of work on this. So if it's new for you and it feels uncomfortable, I really encourage you to kind of lean into that and really kind of maybe even journal about it, because it was uncomfortable for me for a really long time. And I believed, you know, that money was kind of the root of all evil. And if all these horrible people had money, I didn't want to be part of it. What I have since, in many, many years of unpacking and healing and, you know, delving into my own shadow work and my own sort of ancestral money relationship, I have really taken on this, rekindled my relationship essentially with money, and created a relationship, an actual relationship, which a lot of us don't have, other than like avoiding taxes and avoiding, you know, whatever it is, accounting and all that kind of icky, boring stuff that is part and parcel with having a real business as opposed to having a hobby. So money is like, it's a really, really powerful energy. And it's a neutral energy, and it flows to people who feel worthy of receiving it. And so for someone like me, who was always going, money's so evil, money's so horrible, money only goes to, like, you know, horrible people to do horrible things, I was really pushing it away. And what I've since really realized is, as I said before, you can't give what you don't have. So if I'm struggling to put food on my table, or I'm feeling like I'm not contributing to my family, and I'm not feeling good about the work that I'm doing, I'm not going to keep doing this work. It's just not sustainable. It's not a reality. We need to have money coming in, so that, because that's essentially the definition of a business, and even a sacred business, it's about having some money coming in so that we can then disperse that money into, you know, our own self-care, into our family, and into our own future, and into professional development, which is so important. So many doulas don't charge anything, and then can't do anything with it. They can't, you know, upgrade parts of their business that they need to. They can't invest in support when they really need it. They can't invest in self-care. They can't invest in anything. And it just becomes this, like, then they end up resentful, basically, and they end up resenting the work. And it's not a beautiful relationship between that birth worker and their clients. And it just ends up gross and toxic. Now, I'm not saying you have to charge, you know, way outside of your comfort zone, but it is important to understand that there's nothing more spiritual, really, than being able to charge an energy exchange that creates a really beautiful and sacred container between you and your clients, where they're paying you for your expertise, where they value you and they value your work and they value what you have to offer, because that's essentially what you're wanting to come to, is that place of knowing that there are people there for you, who want you for you. It doesn't matter about price. They'll pay anything because they want you. They want only you, because you make them feel safe, which is why there's no one right way, because there's a client for everyone. It's about how you make them feel, and then they're willing to pay you that equal energy exchange, so then you can funnel that back into your business and your family and your lifestyle, so that you can keep doing this work. So I don't know about you, but I just feel like that is so incredibly spiritual, and I could really talk about that all day. I wanted to say, about the money. The other thing about money, so it's not ethical at all to be not charging for a birth, because essentially you are then paying to be at a birth. So that's the other thing that I wanted to make a point about. And also when it comes to money, we're not wanting money for money's sake generally. I mean, I don't know anybody else that would want money for money's sake, right? Just like for the sake of having it and like storing it in the bank. We want it to be able to do good and do better in this world. So if at the moment we have the majority of people who are getting all of this money to do horrible things, the more of us who are these like vessels for this soul work that we've been called to do so that we can disperse it out and do more good in the world. I don't know about you, but I just feel like that would be the goal. That's the ultimate goal. And in order to do that, it's about having that sacred container of that business that comes from inside you to allow you to bring it out into the world. And then you're charging that energy exchange so that you can then continue that cycle going and you can do more and more and more good in the world. If you're not charging and you don't see money as an important sacred part, spiritual part of running your business, you won't be able to keep doing it. And the universe is going to be like, why aren't you following your calling? Why are you open to me like giving you this so that you can keep going and doing good in the world? And that's really what I'm passionate about. And that's really what I've seen over and over and over, is this feeling of like, I can't charge and I don't know what to charge because I don't feel valuable enough and I don't feel good enough. And I don't really know like how to make this money thing work, and I feel awkward about it all the time. When you have that really positive relationship with money and you really see it as a vital part of your business, because your business is you and it's essentially paying you to be able to do this work, it changes everything. But I just want to kind of end that part by saying that, again, there's no one right way. There's no one amount of money that you kind of need to make, but it does have to come from within. If you are feeling bombarded and too much noise, it's about finding that place of centering yourself and going within and unearthing your shadows. And my passion is about saying to you, yes, business is so important, but I could give you every single part that you need to do on your business right now. I could give you like all of your paperwork and contracts and intake forms. None of that would help you in your business if you haven't got those basic foundational points around understanding your worth as a soul worker, essentially, as a vessel for this calling that you have, that you have really firm boundaries, that you have rekindled your relationship with your sacred business as an extension of you rather than something over there and external from you or something that someone's telling you to do, that you've rekindled your relationship with money as a really vital and sacred part of being able to continue doing this work. None of the business stuff will matter. I can tell you how to use Instagram. I can tell you how to use all that stuff. But if you have a look at my blueprint, the hierarchy is that way for a reason, because you have to work through these steps. You have to work through these limiting beliefs before you can get to the actual practical business things. Because you'll end up doing, 15 interviews and not actually being able to book those clients because you haven't got that foundational stuff around confidence and self-worth and enoughness, and you'll be constantly wanting to kind of overgive and, you'll be hustling and you'll be feeling gross about it and the energy will feel off and it will feel weird and you'll be like, why isn't this working? And then you just go, oh, it's too hard and I'm just going to go and get a real job. So that's why I feel that that section of the blueprint around you as the business is the foundation and is so important, and that comes before any of the actual practical external masculine business parts of your business. And that's how you kind of formulate your sacred business. It really does come from here and from within. So on that note, I think I've covered all of the things that I wanted to cover in terms of the myths and the challenges. And I'm going to go through some of these questions. What has worked for you? Okay, I'm going to answer these questions in just a second. I just wanted to, okay, maybe I'll do that now. Okay, I'm going to answer the questions. Yeah, so Kirsten or Kristen has said, Kirsten, I think the information overload and blockage of what I want to do is huge for me at the moment. Yes, and even considered unfollowing everyone to just concentrate on my message for a while. So it sounds like maybe you should. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what you should do, but the thing is, if your intuition is saying you need a break from consumption, you know, and you need to just create for a while, it's about listening to your intuition. And someone else has said at the bottom, Maggie said, what has worked for you to work through your beliefs? My intuition. Honestly, like, we disregard that and we constantly look for external advice and external information. Constantly. We're like, tell me how to run my business. Like, I can tell you how to do it, but you won't do it. You won't do it. And the reason you won't do it and the reason that it won't work for you, and I can guarantee you, it won't work for you. And the reason that is because your unconscious mind will block you, because it'll be like, what are you doing? And all of this stuff from your childhood, because generally our unconscious beliefs around our self-worth and around our deservingness and our worthiness and our enoughness comes from our childhood imprinting. So it comes from our parents, it comes from things that people say to us, it comes from our cultural kind of influences. You have the ability now, as you transcend from your training into building your business, to get rid of all of that and start fresh. You can be in charge now. This is what's so amazing about running a business, is that you get to be in charge. But a big part of that comes with healing and reclaiming your own authentic self. Because if you're not showing up as your authentic self with your clients, it's not going to work. If you are not showing up with confidence and worth and your knowingness that your ability to hold space and knowing that someone's holding space for you so you can leave your shit at the door, like, if you don't have that, the energy is off and people they're not going to book you. Like, or it'll feel weird, or you won't like it. You'll book people that want to pay you because you're the cheapest. That is never a fun experience. Never a fun experience. Or you'll go and shadow and end up, the people that I know who have shadowed other doulas have had way more traumatic experiences than anyone. Or you'll have clients that just aren't your people. You have to find your people. And the only way you can find your people is by showing up as yourself. And the only way you can show up as yourself is by trusting and knowing who you are, getting rid of all of that noise and going deep. So for me, that's what I've had to do. And it has taken some rock bottoms. Like, I won't lie. Sometimes it's been tricky, but that's why I'm showing up and teaching this, because I want you to fast track. I'm not saying it's not uncomfortable, because shadow work is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable, but let's relish in the uncomfortable instead of avoiding it, because avoiding it is only going to make it worse. So yes, intuition and authenticity is a backbone. Yes. So if you look at my blueprint, that is the bottom line. I don't care what anyone says about business. You can look at the ads and sponsored crap that comes up all the time that says, you know, if you post on Instagram this many times, you know, you'll get this success in business. Maybe you might, you know, become an influencer, but are influencers making money? Like, are they actually running a business? Are they actually doing sacred work that you want to be doing? You can't compare yourself with anybody else, because someone else's dream and their goal life isn't what yours is going to be. So you just can't compare. What the key is, apart from going inside, is support. It really is support. This is why I'm so passionate about holding space for people who hold space, because so many doulas and birth workers, you are literally walking into the unknown. Like, it is the most magical, powerful, vulnerable time in a person's life that you have been honored to walk into. But the things that you're going to experience, you need support for. To unblock some of those limiting beliefs, you need support. Like, you need to have someone to hold space for you so that you can leave your stuff and embody the art of holding space as you walk through that door with your clients. And it shows up in the way that you show up wherever it is, social media, you know, your mailing list, in face-to-face with your clients, wherever it might be. I'm just gonna see what other people have said. Always worrying about bringing enough clients in. I've been doing this work for 4.5 years and the worry never goes away. Definitely have a block around getting myself out there in social media and selling myself. Yes, okay, so that like feeling of selling yourself, like I hate it, it's gross. No one wants to sell themselves. We're doing sacred work. We're doing the work of the goddess. We don't want to sell ourselves like, you know, the gross business men that do. And this is the thing about traditionally sacred women's business, is a lot of the business books, they're written by men, right? And they don't worry about their kids, and they're probably not juggling the care of their kids. And so everything you read, you're like, I can't do any of that. So I just don't read them anymore. I do really like the Denise Duffel-Thomas Chillpreneur. So if you want like a resource, I really like her book. She's a mom of 3 and she only wants to work 10 hours a week so she can spend the rest of her time with her kids. And she defines her business. Now she has a multi-million-dollar business that she defines around what she wants. No one can tell her what to do. She gets to decide that for herself, and there's no limits. This is the thing. Once you've ticked off those things, and I shouldn't say ticked off because it's not a linear process. Every time you scale or grow your business, you're going to have to redo the work at the bottom. Trust me, every time I move to another upper limit, as they sort of talk about, you know, in the business world, every time you're about to kind of grow and move up to the next level, it's uncomfortable, and you have to go back and you have to really look at your worthiness and your relationship with money and your feelings of enoughness and any blocks that are coming up from your imprinted unconscious beliefs. They're going to be there to protect you. As soon as you get scared, they come in, they're like, no, stop, you can't do this. It's too scary. It's too much. You need to stay small. And it's about knowing how to work through that fear and knowing that that fear is actually there to protect you and to grow through it anyway. So I guess when it comes to selling yourself, you're not selling yourself because you have a sacred business. What you're doing is you're showing up authentically as yourself. And what you're doing is essentially honoring the call that you've been given and you're putting it out into the world. There is more of a process that I would go into in terms of like creating some kind of sustainability and some kind of consistency around actually maintaining, like, you know, there is strategy around the business side of making sure that you've got that consistency. But from my own personal experience and from the experience of watching others, when I got clear, without all of that extra noise, I stopped comparing myself and I started really getting clear about what my focus is. What is it that I love to do? What is it that I'm being called to do? What is it that people come to me for? And what change do I want to see in the world? And when I got really clear about that, because I was doing too many things, I was just taking on whatever work I could get to bring a little bit of income in, and it wasn't sustainable, and I was giving too much for free. So I stopped, I cleared everything. Denise Duffel-Thomas calls it like killing your darlings. Like I had to kind of kill off a whole bunch of stuff, and I got really, really clear. Once I got clear and I started really listening to my intuition and I started really giving myself space to do what I love to do, I'm telling you, it comes, just like comes. All of my posts from Instagram, they just come to me. And I'm like, oh, quick, I better write that down. I have never been so clear and had so many messages about how I want to show up as clearing out all of those old blocks and listening to my intuition instead of listening to other people. And when you show up in your authenticity as yourself, I don't care if you have cracked fingernail polish and mum bun and track pants, because that's what I look like most days, or if you like, you know, smell like patchouli, which I also do most days, or if you know, like are full of perfume and have the manicure and the, you know, like whatever you do you, and your clients will come, but they're not going to come if you don't show up. And you don't have to show up on Instagram because I show up, but that's where I like to be. That's where my people are. You have to show up where you feel comfortable. But at the end of the day, you have to show up. And the only way you're going to show up is if you feel enough, if you feel confident, and if you feel good about actually charging and actually what you're giving, what you're offering. You know, it's just really about showing up, and you're not going to show up unless you clear the other stuff. That's really my main message. That's my main message. I was going to see what else someone has said. I have a business question. I might have missed it in the first part. What are your thoughts on actually finding clients? I've done the work, I'm ready. How do we find our people? Well, oh, sorry, it was private. Hi, Lani. I love Lani. I actually want to talk about Lani's amazing work in 1 second. Yeah, so showing up, which you do, definitely do. I think showing up is like the biggest thing, and being consistent around what your offerings are, and being clear about what your message is. Like, you've got to be clear about what it is that your message is, and really focusing on one thing. This is very basic, but they would be my main things. Another question that somebody asked me was, and I don't want to keep you all here all day, but although, you know, we can hang out and chat all day if you want, but it's up to you. So the question that I had was, how do we show up as birth workers when the fear, and I can't remember specifically the question, I did write it down, but when the fear of contributing to a toxic system is blocking you? So essentially she's feeling like, I don't want to do this. I'm called to this work. I really want to do this work. I really want to support women and birthing people in that field, but I don't want to contribute to this toxic system. And I hope she's on. I'm not sure if she's on, but I said I would answer the question in here, and then I'll probably do an Instagram story about it. But my short answer, roundabout answer to that is, yes, the fear is real, but we have to show up. We are being called to this work because the world needs our work more than ever. The world is suffering. I wrote a post recently about in Adelaide. Adelaide's such a small place, like a really small place. We have over 30 doulas trained and less than a handful actually working. That means that we have a bunch, and the demand for doulas is much greater, particularly here because we don't have a lot of other options. We need more people doing this work. So it's your responsibility to do your work so that you can follow this calling and build the life that you want to build, doing the work that you want to do. So if it's calling you, you have to just find a way to make it work for you. There's no prerequisite that you have to attend births in a hospital that will make you feel broken and make you feel traumatized. I personally, if you know me and you know my background and my own birth stories, I do find it difficult to attend births in a hospital. That's not to say I don't, but I have to make it work for me. And it has to come from a place of finding the clients that are right for me, that I'm right for as well. It's a whole other process, you know, it's a whole big process. But if you don't want to attend births in a hospital, you don't have to. If you don't want to attend births at all, you don't have to. But you can still do this work and contribute in a way that makes change, positive change in this world, to fuck that broken system in your own way. And the thing is, the more of us doing this work, the more of us we're going to build on top of each other. You know, like we're going to build together to build a united massive force. What I'm saying is, I don't want to see people not doing the work because they're frightened, not using fear as an excuse to stay small and not stand up for what we need to be standing up for. I was going to use Lani as an example because she shows up on Instagram and she's really passionate about free birth and about unassisted birth and about, you know, sovereignty in birth and about birth choices. If that's your passion, you need to show up and talk about that message. You need to talk about what it is that lights you up and sets you on fire. People are not going to book you if they don't know what your message is. And the stronger your message, the stronger your audience. If you're afraid of people who don't, who unsubscribe from you and unfollow you, you're giving your energy to them instead of the people that really want to hear your message. But if you're not showing up with a solid message, like what is it you really believe in? That's the way you're going to attract your people. So if you don't want to attend hospital births, don't. If you don't want to attend births, don't. If you don't want to do, obviously you have to be really careful around like discrimination. You have to be really respectful. But the idea is about building a community and having support so you can refer to someone who is right for that person. You're not going to be right for everybody, and everyone's not going to be right for you. This is why you get solid on yourself first. Solid, then you put it out into the world. Otherwise it gets confusing, it gets muddled, people don't really know what you're about. I had way too many offerings for way too long. I was so diluted in my message, no one really knew what I was about. I did some kind of birth work, like I did a bit of placentas and I did a bit of blessings and I did a bit of like whatever. You got to be clear. People need to see you a bunch of times with that clear message before they're going to trust you and before they're going to book you. So it's about not staying small, listening to that calling and doing what is right for you. So if something is frightening you or making you feel uncomfortable, lean into the discomfort. Don't stray away from the discomfort, because that's where things get horrible and it just won't work. It'll just all fall apart. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say today. I also wanted to talk a little bit about my Thrive program, because of course, when I talk about how do you get your clients and how do you, what was the question? How do you work through these beliefs? Well, I created a program to teach you this. Literally, like this is what I did. I got everything that I learned, all of these years of experience, and I've put it into a program. The blueprint that I've given for free is massive and full of value. It's like so full of value. Everyone was like, why are you giving it away for free? The reason I'm giving it away for free is because I wanted to help people, but also it's just the beginning. Like that's literally just the beginning. My Thrive program is we go deep in every single topic for 12 weeks. You have me as your mentor, and it's a mastermind because it's a group, and I really feel strongly about community and connection as a birth worker. And you have a mentor who supports you through it, and we go deep on every single topic. We go through, of course, the business stuff, but that's like at the end. We got to get through all this other stuff first, this really big stuff first. You as the business, how you step into your leadership, that's hard. Like owning your space, particularly if you identify like as a woman, it can be really confronting to feel like you can own your space and not play small. And that was really hard for me. I love teaching so much, but moving into actually calling myself a coach and saying, I have a lot to offer. I've been doing this for free for so long, but actually owning that space and showing up and knowing that I am worthy and valuable, what I have to offer actually really will help people. It can be confronting sometimes. So you have a sacred space to work through all of that. We work through every level of the blueprint really quite deeply for 12 weeks. And so if you are a new doula in your first 12 months, I encourage you to have a look at the program and see if it might work for you. Have a look at the blueprint and see what I work through. And I do have a special offer. So if you join in just for the people that have signed up, just because I really, really want to reward the people that rocked up and stayed with me and chatted with me. And also for the people that signed up. So if you're listening on the replay as well. So for the next 24 hours, I will send you through a code in the email with the replay. It will be $12.99 down from $14.99, which is a really, really good deal for the amount of value that you're getting. So you're not only getting me, you're getting a group, and you're getting all of the resources and everything to work through every single step and to work through your business as it comes. Because I think that's one of the biggest things. Once you finish your training, it's like, who do I talk to about whatever challenge I'm facing, or I'm going to a birth and this has happened and I don't know who to talk to. So it's like literally like real time. So for 24 hours, there's that early bird price. And also, if you sign up in the next 24 hours and you attended live, I'm offering a one-to-one laser session with you as well. So we can go through the actual nitty-gritties of your individual situation, because it can be, yeah, Lani, keep plugging away. I mean, if you do want to have like a laser session, we can go through the actual individual stuff. I think that you're doing so, so great. Danielle said Thrive is amazing. Thanks, Danny. Yeah, I think you're doing amazingly, but there's a few steps involved in trying to be strategic around business. If you have been in business for a little while, I am offering also coaching sessions. I'm keeping Thrive to specifically doulas in their first 12 months, because I think it's really important to get that community of people around the same stage to kind of work with each other around the same sort of things, and to have your space held and hold space for other people. So on that note, does anybody else have any other questions that you would like me to answer? How do we find our people? Yeah, definitely just being your authentic self, and knowing that people need, if you're online, people need to see you like between 7 and 14 times before they're willing to invest in you. So if you're offering doula work specifically, it's actually worth really plugging into your local community. I didn't say that before, but yeah, local community and face-to-face stuff. People need to see you. So does anyone have any other questions? I hope it was a valuable masterclass for you and not too much information overload, but trust me, it's about digging right into you. You are the business. It's not external. No one can tell you how to be. There's no mold or right way to be, but it's really about showing up as you and speaking to your people that you want to attract, and using that masculine container of, you know, boundaries and the business stuff to kind of mold it all together to create a whole of your sacred business. It's been so lovely chatting with all of you. If anyone does have any other questions, I'll just hang out just for 30 seconds. And otherwise, I will send you all the replay through soon, and hit me up with any other questions you might have, or if you have any questions about Thrive. And I hope to connect with you all in the world of social media. Okay, bye.